cooperating today. Hello everybody, welcome to the Ziabo Studio Buzz podcast, episode 51. My name is Doug and I am coming to you from Albuquerque in the beautiful desert of New Mexico. This is where I live and dye the yarns for my yarn company, Ziabos. Pardon the pun. Just couldn't help myself. Yes. I have just come back from a knitting retreat. I was telling you about that in the last episode, and also from a little extended trip with my husband. We added on a week in Arizona, which was just fun. But I know you're not, probably don't want to hear about my travels, but let's talk about knitting. I have a knitting retreat, if you've never done one, just picture yourself somewhere where you can focus on what you love without interruptions, children having to cook and whatnot. And it's just a treat. It's a real treat. And I was lucky enough to be invited as a vendor as well. So what happened was that my husband came and brought Ziabos, and I got to travel by train with my friends, and so that was already a great start. 4 hours of dedicated knitting time, in my case, more talk time. I don't know. Knitting and talking, not a good combination for me. I have to confess, I was just really not too, let's call it productive. Even though I was lucky enough, I did not have to bring any of my clothes and essentials on the train, so I just could bring my knitting projects, which was kind of cool in my little roller thingy. Yeah. So what have I worked on? I confess that I started a new shawl, and that is the Barklines by Jogi Locatelli. I was telling you about that last time, that it was kind of a funny thing, because what happened was I told you that I was in a way hesitant was thinking about making it in the yarn that I got at last year's retreat in the goodie bag. But then I looked at the yardage. I mean, even though I was lucky enough that I had my husband's yarn, he got a goodie bag. So, which means I got 2 goodie bags, essentially. So I got his yarn and I got my own. So I had 2 skeins, but still the yardage was not supposed to be enough. Then I thought about it and I thought, that's not really me to chicken out of a challenge. I'm gonna just wing it somehow. First of all, I decided I'm gonna go down a needle size, tight knitter. I didn't want the yarn last year from the goodie bag was a 100% bamboo yarn by Theodora's Pearls in the colorway, the turquoise room, absolutely stunningly beautiful yarn. And I thought, well, I don't want this, it's going to be heavy and it's going to have a lot of drape, but I don't want it to be like too floppy, if that makes any sense. So I went a needle size down and I knitted it started with 3.5 millimeter needles. Let me grab it. I have a few challenges to overcome. I'm quite far into this. Let me show you. This is how it looks like. It is really beautiful. It's a gorgeous pattern, and in fact, what happened was even that I realized this yarn is kind of never ending. So I'm using actually really less than I thought I would. So when I was, let me see, when I was here, I should have started the edge, which I'm actually on right now. And so after this section, but what happened was I thought, wow, I'm going to put it on a big needle. I wouldn't mind having it a little bit larger. I have a lot of yarn left. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to just go until I have a stitch count where I have one more pattern repeat for the edge section. So first of all, I did this. Then I counted my stitches, and I was doing it, would you know, in the middle of the night again, like at 10 or 11. I could barely do any math, like 2 times 196 or so. So I kept going. Whatever, I thought, let me try to figure this out. I kept going, then to here. And then I decided I'm going to start the edge. I did my math. I cropped a little bit off the stitches, off the pattern on both sides. The side of the shawl, but also the side of the side of the chart that marks the middle of this, which was no problem. That was easy. I mean, also now that I'm doing it, it shows me that was no biggie at all. Easy enough. My problem now, as I'm doing this, is this. That's all I have left. So here's the plan. And that's my second ball of yarn. So here's my plan. I am right now on row 11 of the chart. After row 10, I weighed this. I knitted half the row. I weighed it again. It had 1 gram more than before. And I laughed so much. I told my husband, hey, this is wonderful magic. I'm going to be able to finish the whole chart for this shawl because this just magically becomes more yarn as I'm working with it. Well, no such luck. I haven't weighed it yet. I finished my row now, and so I have a total of 20 rows for the edge section. I have done 11 rows, and so I'm going to go back, and what I like is that at this point I have reached the tip of this section. So even though in comparison to the whole shawl it's a little bit small, but I am thinking it's gonna work. So I'm gonna knit back, that would be row 12, and then probably I'm gonna cast off in row 13, and 13 is my lucky number. I got married on a Friday the 13th, nothing but good luck. So yes, I think that's what I'll do. The other option that I was considering was sending a note to the yarn store and maybe ask them to put out a call for any leftovers of the colorway from the people that attended last year. I don't know. I don't know if I'm that patient because I'm so close to the end, and I'm just not sure if I really want to wait that long, because that would mean even maybe waiting another 2 weeks or so before I would get the yarn, if I would get it. Or maybe I check on Ravelry a D-stash. That would be an option. I have to explore a little bit. Also, I may contact the dyer. Maybe she has like a little bit left. I mean, yeah, I'll see. I mean, you see what I'm saying? Because it's a large shawl, and to have only a small edge is kind of a little bit of a shame. I did start with a new skein about here in the middle of this section. Wait. Yeah, kind of here. You can see, because the first skein is kind of a little, has this beige mute undertone, which I don't mind at all. So, I mean, to have this break, I mean, it's like, who sees this? Me, and it doesn't bother me. And even more because there is the rib section where it happened, it's really not noticeable, I find. Only if you look for it, you know? So even if I get some more yarn, which is again slightly different, it's not gonna matter. But in my stash, I don't have anything that would work, even, especially since it's bamboo. And I know I did a swap with the dyer last year, so I got more of this beautiful bamboo, but I think I got it in a gray and in a pink, and that's just not gonna work to add this into the shawl at this point. This is really a challenge to patience and endurance, because one row takes me half an hour. And that's like, I'm not trying to be fast, just the way it goes, you know, kind of shoving my stitches around and whatnot, but it's okay. That's the way it is. This is the shawl, Barklines by Jogi Locatelli. Wonderful pattern, as all of her patterns. And now on to what else I took on my trip, which is a pair of socks, because everybody needs socks in their purse, especially when they travel. And what I did is what I continued on my Christmas socks, which is a yarn from a German dyer. And I, in fact, started this one while we were on the go. You know, sometimes I just keep it in my purse. And then if we go to a museum where I am faster than my husband, I wait for him by the exit and I knit. And no, I do not purposely rush. In fact, I'm the one who's the slow reader. So if it's very interesting to me, it takes me longer to go through. So he's actually looking for me, but whatever. And here is sock number 1. Because I knit my leg in stockinette, I usually mark before I start the heel flap, so I can check how many rows I have. I knit my socks with 2.5 millimeter needles on DPNs, as you saw. And the other project is something that I started specifically for the trip, and it is a new sweater, maybe to be designed. I was quite determined to write it up into a pattern, but I was a little bit, now I'm a little bit uncertain, and I'll tell you everything about it. So I'm using Zia Wool's Sundancer Superwash Merino in the colorway Sterntaler, which is a reference to a German fairy tale. Actually, for some reason, it reminded me of one of my favorite fairy tale books as a kid. And also because Sterntaler, Stern is the star, and my dad used to call me mein Stern. My dad passed away many years ago, so it's very special for me to have a yarn with that name. That reminds me of him, but also to because it's it's just a beautiful colorway. Look at that. So I thought that's gonna be a lot of stockinette. So I decided I'm gonna grab some minis and pop in some colors. And that's what I did here. So I brought those, I think I grabbed 4 colors that I brought. And I still have enough of every color to put it in the other piece of the garment. And you're probably going to wonder, what are you making? This is this is going to be a short sleeve sweater that was inspired by the shirt that I wore when I recorded the last podcast. It's kind of like a new shirt that I got recently, and when I started wearing it, I thought, wow, I really like this. Wouldn't that be cool in a light wool yarn, a lightweight one? So I did a gauge swatch, did my math, got going, and I came to a width of 170 stitches. And I have never made a really truly boxy sweater. I didn't knit the boxy. I was always thinking I'm going to get tired of this, but that's the reason why I put in the stripes. The other thing is, why you may think, why don't you knit it in the round? I love to do that. I don't hate seaming, but I also don't call for it when I don't have to. I mean, I don't have to seam if I can avoid it. Let's just keep it at that. But my shirt, the inspiration shirt, has it's not a true dolman sleeve, but there will be an increase in stitches here where you can't knit it in the round. Maybe you can. I did not want to figure that one out. But so here's the downsides about this that other people may not like. You will need to seam. You have a lot of stitches. I am even using 3mm needles. And also it will have a low neckline. Oh my goodness. I hope this microphone is not being noisy on you all the time. So I will have a low neckline, which also is not for everybody, understandable. So I had the seaming, I had the neckline, and I have a lot of stitches. I don't know. I gotta finish it before I can even think of writing this up as a pattern, but I would love to. I already have a name for it, even though I don't even know. Well, if it's only a project, it's going to be still have that name. And the name is Angel in the Desert, because these stripes very much reminded me of my friends Debbie and Amy of the Periscoping Sisters, who talk about their sister Wendy, whom they lost many years ago. They talk about Wendy a lot, and especially Amy puts a lot of unexpected twists and pops of colors into her knitwear. And so I really thought of Wendy when I put in these stripes, and so I thought, yeah, there's the angel in the desert. And it's actually two two angels. It's Wendy and my dad, who I always think that he would have loved the desert so much, but he passed away before we moved to New Mexico, and I'm sad that I could never show it to him. Yeah. If he could have visited here, I know he would have been on the bike trails every single day or running up there in the mountains, and probably have run up our Sandia Mountains. Okay. Yeah. So the angel in the desert. Shirt. I don't know. Sweater, whatever you want to call it. Next thing lives in my Melody bag, gift from my friend Melody, who also was at the retreat. And I am knitting with Zia Wool's Santa Fe in 3.5 millimeter needles, and this is going to be a rectangular, a long shawl for my mom for Mother's Day, a Mother's Day gift. Actually, I have a picture here. It's kind of bad and small, but maybe you can see. The colorway is called Juniper. And if you know what juniper is, you will know why it got this name. I love it. It's such a treat for the senses in a way because of the silk in it. It's 50, did I say that? 50-50 merino silk, and it's just so lovely. I have not knitted much on this since I saw you the last time, because I'm not in a crazy rush, and then I ended up focusing on the Barklines, which is okay. And it is patiently waiting in its beautiful bag. Oh, I got cold hands. I'm usually always hot, but what happened was when I recorded the German version of the podcast, it was a wonderful and warm day, and I had my garage door here open. I'm in my studio again, and I thought, oh, I'm going to record here, keep the door open. Wonderful. I ended up not needing even a shawl or anything. I was sleeveless, and today I was dying this morning, and now I am actually really cold. I needed this woolen jacket, but the garage is open and it's okay. I'll survive. Don't worry about me. Spring is coming. It's still kind of, it's midday. It's not too early in the day. Okay, but that's not too important. Let me think what's next. I had also brought on my travels, I brought the pattern the project that I made with the pattern that I recently published, and but I did not touch that. I do want to thank you all for welcoming it so nicely. So it's been a free pattern for a week in honor of my anniversary and in honor of Valentine's Day, and a lot of people downloaded it, and I thank you for that. And if you have bought the pay for version since then, I also want to thank you. And I hope that everybody's going to knit them up in their own interpretation with their own yarn, and that you're going to put it up on Ravelry so I can see how your pair looks. My second pair, I started in turquoise, and like I said, I'm not done. I got one done and the second one started, and you know how it is then. Something new. It's sometimes I feel like a little bit like Dory, you know, swimming through the oceans of patterns and yarns, and I'm kind of on a mission to find Nemo, but then I get distracted and I find other things that call my name, and so doesn't always work the way it's planned. But another example for that is my hap, and it lives in a Zia Wool's bag. Vintage is this fabric, by the way. I love it. Yes, and my hap. I'm so excited that one day when I'm going to be done with it, I will have the chance to put it on a real true hap stretcher, which was actually built by a dear friend of mine who gifted it to me. I never miss a chance to mention this because this was one of the most amazing gifts ever, as you may guess. I wanted to knit another hap. I made one last year for a friend's newborn baby, but this one is supposed to be for me in a German podcast group by another podcaster. There's a knit along currently, which is a good chance for me to revive this project because I worked on my hap until I want to say November maybe, and then I dropped it because I thought I got to focus on a few Christmas things, which I did, but now Christmas is over. Wait, for almost 3 months. So it's about time to get cracking on this, to get back to this. I spun this gorgeous and super soft and squishy natural Shetland fiber, which came from a local farm. And this is where I was. So I finished, I'm making the Hansel hap by Gudrun Johnston. And you start off by knitting a square, then picking up stitches around it and knitting, around the edge, and then you knit in the round until you get to the edge lace where, whatever, you'll see it. Or look at the pattern. Maybe you even remember. I will now introduce color into this shawl, into the edge. And most likely I will use blends of bats that I hand spun. And then, since I have a whole full skein again, I'm probably going to pull it all together by adding the lace at the end, by doing that again in this color. So that's the plan. It's at least back out. It's on the couch, and I will pick it up and work on it probably as soon as I'm done with the Barklines, unless I go into Dory mode again, because I have a ton of ideas. You don't know the half of it, my friends. Another thing that I have, because goodness, I showed you the gorgeous yarn that I spun, and I wound it into a ball of yarn, and I have started a shawl after that's a design with a lot of open, where you have a lot of variations where you can give it your own spin, and that is it's called Elfenstille. And the reason why I ended up picking it, it's a free pattern, and I apologize, it's not available in English. But the reason I chose this one is that it has large sections of stockinette, which I wanted because I wanted the yarn to shine. And I already made one change. I started off with a garter tab. The designer picked a different edge altogether, but I thought I like the way this looks. I will do my increases in the middle with just the yarn over, as well as at the edge where I just like the way this looks. Yeah. I wanted to bring this on the trip. I thought I had brought it on the trip. And then when I was going to pull it out at our place at the La Posada in Winslow, Arizona, where we spent the weekend, then I couldn't find it. And I was a little bit worried that I had lost it on the train, where I had 20 projects in my little carry-on bag. I mean, not quite, I'm exaggerating, but still. But so I was a little worried, but it was safely at home, and that was okay, because I mean, how much time do you actually really have to design and figure out something new when you're traveling? I don't know. So another one that will be back in business shortly. I was, for various reasons, going through my stash the other day and found these two beauties. This was my graduation colorway in 2017. When my son graduated from high school, I came up with two colorways. This was the girl version, the girl graduation colorway, and I named this Big Girls Don't Cry. I set this one aside for my daughter, and you need to know that I dye my graduation colorways for socks for the young adults, always on my Chama base, which is an 8-ply cabled yarn. It's a 100% superwash merino. It has no nylon. But the reason why I chose this is that every kid loves this yarn because it's so soft. So my daughter, she has socks made from normal sock yarns, but I know she's gonna love a pair made with this yarn. I dyed up this one as a complementary color to have like a ribbing and toes maybe, but this is not gonna happen for her, because even though absolutely stunningly beautiful, she is not the kind of bright, loving girl. So what I will do is, this will go in the shop with a bunch of other graduation colorways, which will, I'm gonna put I'll talk, let's just calm down right now, and I will talk about the shop stuff later. But I can show you already what I have dyed instead for my daughter, because I know she's going to love this. The other day, she was walking by some yarn that I had dyed, and she's like, "Mom, this is very aesthetically pleasing." You know, I try to speak German to my kids. They're bilingual, but still they're in the habit of answering in English no matter what. So that's very aesthetically pleasing. So it was with a pale speckled yarn that she saw. And then I thought, let's just try to create something aesthetically pleasing for her graduation socks. Okay, more about that yarn later. Then, what is next? I have plans. So there's one project that I will start with this yarn. This was dyed and gifted to me by a friend in Germany. No, not dyed. I'm so sorry. These are wound, and the color variation is created by exchanging these individual threads that are making up the yarn. In this case, it's 4 threads, and I have 1,000 meters of it, and it's called Albuquerque, Heaven and Desert, or maybe you would better translate it Skies and Desert. Yeah, and it's a cotton acrylic blend, and the pattern I'm going to knit up with a group of German knitters is called Crisscross. Dang, I should have looked it up. I'm sorry, I apologize. I don't know if it's in English or in German. I will see that I can have that information for you on the screen. That's going to be the Crisscross. The nice thing is that that's a pattern where you just keep going until you run out of yarn. And I've seen it on a few other podcasts where I thought, oh, perfect for this, which has been sitting and waiting patiently on a shelf in my studio. And if this is something that you are interested in, the company is called Mumas Wollwelt, and there's a website where you can probably easily find out what options you might have if that's something that's interesting to you. Then, next, yes, I know, I'm crazy. I know. Remember this? And how frustrated I was with my gauge swatch, because it was completely off, and so I abandoned it, and I was pouting and put it in the corner because it was being naughty on me. And then I was visiting various yarn stores while I was traveling, and I found a treasure in the yarn store in Prescott. I love that place. They are so welcoming and sweet. Sorry about that. Now I lost my flow. Husbands. Okay. Well, oh, the beautiful yarn store in Prescott. So, and that is where I bought these guys for the True Friend. This has about 380 yards. It's a Mirasol yarn. Mirasol Nuna. I should put on my glasses, and then I'm sorry. I think, as far as I remember, it had about 380 yards. I mean, that's a 50 grams skeins that are balled up here. So, this being the main color, this being the color that Vera Välimäki used in the light colored stripes here. Did you hear that sigh? What happened was, I was ready to start this baby. I grabbed my needles. I knew I was going to have to go up one needle size to get gauge. because I think Vera is a loose knitter, whereas I'm a tight knitter, and that's okay. I can figure it out. That's fine. But I start knitting, and I thought I'm gonna faint. It was a mesh fabric. I am not at a point in my life where I can wear mesh fabric sweaters. So I knew it wasn't going to happen as like this. And I thought, okay, this is just not meant to be as I thought. And I'm just going to have to suck it up and dye a lace yarn to hold with this. And that's going to be the solution to my gauge problem. And this is exactly right. That's what I was working on, and successfully so, if I may say so. I found a light blue lace yarn, a merino silk, in my stash, which I've had for so long that it doesn't even have the exact content. It would have worked as it was, but I thought, well, I'm gonna kind of put something a little bit, another blue over it to make it just slightly darker and more matchy, and I really love how it turned out. So that already works. The brown, not so easy. I wanted to use something in my lace stash, but the only thing I found was a gold orange lace, 100% alpaca, and I over dyed it, and it got quite dark and it's still very orange. So at this point, what I have decided is that I'm gonna ball this up. I'm gonna knit a sample. Maybe I like it in these stripes because it gives me a little bit of variation. On the other hand, I really like this brown, so I may use up a full skein of fine lace yarn that I have in stock and over dye it. I'm gonna show you. Because right here, look at this. A brown like this would just be a lot nicer. And I think I looked at it and I thought, dang, this is great. I mean, I looked at this and I thought, yeah, that's okay, that's gonna work, whatever. But I really picked this because I love this warm shade of brown. And then all of a sudden I was talking about it on the German podcast, and I glance over into the bin with the yarns in front of me, and I see this and I'm like, oh, that's so matching. So I can redo this. I'm a little bit bummed because I'm not going to use much of the lace, and so that would be very cool too. Maybe I can just hold this one double and put it in. Whoa, that would be awesome too. Oh, so many ideas. Nah, not gonna happen. I'm gonna probably suck it up and over dye a full skein of lace yarn, and then have it more matching to the brown that I fell in love with originally. And it was kind of a cool experience for me. I knew this wasn't going to be perfect because it was already a quite intense color to begin with. Not dark. I mean, it was yellow. It couldn't be dark, but still. So, and but also I was struggling a little bit with the shade of brown that I should put on it. But I had this. What happened that day is I wound this, and then then it got dark. I mean, we have beautiful lighting here most of the time. So, but that day when it got dark, and I turned on the light in the house, the lights in the house, all of a sudden you could see how much of a peach undertone is in this brown, which really helped me when I decided on the color to overdye this with. But still, the yellow was just too strong. It wouldn't matter. I mean, yeah, you will see. I promise I will not keep it a secret how I will proceed with this. Okay, that's the true friend. It will happen. Next. I was throwing around yarns and I had an idea. I thought maybe I can make a color work yoke sweater after all, because I decided I will discontinue my Hemis base. Hemis is a 3-ply 80-20 merino nylon blend, which is a DK weight. And now let me just pull out some of the colors that I have. And I thought, man, I gotta, this is like, oh, well, I'm gonna discontinue this and then I'm gonna just grab some and use it for a sweater with a color work yoke. I can do this even though I've never done it. I have an idea. I just fell in love hard with the Heidi Kermeyer sweater. Name on the screen. It has short sleeves, and I thought, hey, it's not too long. It's got the short sleeves. That would be super cute. I should be fine with the yarn I have, so I'll do it. Also, as I was throwing around yarns, because there was another shiny, glimmery thing that I bought of casting on new, I found this, dyed by a local dyer, Zombie Yarns, and I thought, oh, how cool would that be, these three together. However, this, not really my color, so I have to figure something out. I thought, this is really pretty. Has a little bit of orange. I'm not so sure if this is not too high contrast for my taste. So I may end up working. All of these are Zia Wool's Hemis. Some of these will, by the way, come up in my shop discounted in the near future. I'm sorry, I have not been able to catch up with everything that needs to be done, because now my son is ill. You know how it is, no matter how old they are, you want to take care of them. And plus, getting back into the groove when you're back home, it always takes a little bit of time. But okay, here's these. What do you think? That would be great. I like these together. And this is also, it's a pink that I really like. It's a normal colorway of mine. It's called Puppet. And this one is also a standard colorway. I haven't dyed it in a while. It's called Lace. And this one, does it have a name? No, this one was a Lucky Dog one of a kind. And in case you wonder, Lucky Dogs are always my one of a kind colorways. Yes, I have bought more yarn while I was traveling, and I love to support local yarn stores. We all should be grateful when we have them close by. I also did swap trade with the other two artists, dyers that were at the retreat, and I brought these to show you because now I want to show you all the new stash and talk about the very last project, which will come up soon. So you're going to say, what? You don't like mohair? Yes, this is not mohair. This is Suri alpaca, a very fine lacy yarn, which I got from the dyer Purple Lamb. Fantastic. 328 yards, 1.75 ounces. 74 baby Suri alpaca and silk. 26%. Fantastic. Now, the other dyer's name was Oh Yarn Knit, and I don't think they watch podcasts, but if you do, I say hi. It was a pleasure to chat with these two ladies, and I picked these, and like I said, we did a trade, so they picked two skeins from me, and I picked these from them, and I'm thinking these two would work great together. And at the other two yarn stores that I visited, one of them being the one in Prescott, the other one being the one in really close to Phoenix, I fell really hard for Stitch Together Studio. Oh man. I love these so much. Very nice bases also, which are some of them with silk, 20% silk, 10% cashmere. What do we have here? I should not pretend that I can actually read this. Oh, 75 merino, 25 nylon, normal standard stuff. This one was also something fancy, I feel. Superwash merino silk and cashmere. Yep. Love, love, love. Yeah, so, and the other thing that I plan to put on the needles very shortly was also a retreat inspired thing, and I made friends with Martha. I became Martha and I, which she lives in Albuquerque here, and we just really clicked and bonded. And she's like, "Oh, you should knit 2-color brioche." I'm like, "Yeah, I really should knit 2-color brioche. Absolutely, top priority. Let's knit 2-color brioche." I did not pick these colors for that purpose, but then later I thought, I don't know, maybe these would work. These would work for sure. But then also I saw at Fruity Knitting Podcast had a wonderful, wonderful, I don't think it was, it was not an interview, but it was a section with an Austrian designer. Her name is Suzanne Sommer, and she does a lot of 2-color brioche, and I thought, how cool is that? I will definitely have to do something. I almost decided on one of her patterns, but in the end I picked the Marvelous by, I think Leanne Robinson is her name. So that's going to go on the needles soon. However, what Suzanne said is that you should always swatch for your 2-color brioche to see how it turns out. So I will wind these up and do a little swatch. And also I pulled out my whole I call it my elite stash, which has all my hand-dyed yarns like the hedgehog fibers and whatnot I've collected through the years, and it's all spread out on my dining room table. And I think after I have recorded this sometime, hopefully later today, I will pick 3 colors for that shawl. I did want to pick, just so you know, a pattern that has the 2-color brioche and also maybe a lace section, and that's what this one has. It has everything that I was looking for. When I pulled out the Elite stash and also the Ziao stash, that's when I found the yarn for my that I had meant as for the graduation socks for my daughter, which was in the end inspiring for me to come up with a new line of graduation colorways. You already saw the one that I have dyed up for her. And these are all the colorways that will go in the shop in the next days. All of these will have a bonus fat mini included for free, which is my graduation gift, and the name of the colorway, because all of these will be one of a kinds. They're all going to be lucky dogs, one of a kinds, but I will name them to each their own, but always blue. And the blue is going to be the color that will be added for the minis. However, I am thinking that I will add a red mini to this one as I originally planned. So I'm now going to show you all the Chama sport sock yarns that will go into the shop within this coming week. They should all be there the latest by Friday. This, not like this, but as a mini with this guy. And then I have one more skein of this. There will be 2 of this. And there are 4 that are very similar, not quite 100% the same, but still very, very similar. Similar enough to put them into one listing in my Etsy shop. And you can get to Etsy if you have a gradiating kid who graduates this year, and you think, wow, this is so cool, I'm gonna make socks for my kid, then I would recommend, if you love this, then I think this would go for a girl or a guy, and that's why they're gender neutral colorways. And let me see if I can reach over and grab that blue that I dyed up this morning. It's kind of like a BAM color, very wet. So with all of these, there will be a fat blue mini for a cuff. Trash is being picked up right now. Yes, that's that. There also will be, gosh, where are they? I dyed up a little bit of Sugarloaf, which will also go in the shop. All of these 3 skeins are one of a kinds. I call them play skeins also, where I just experimented and had fun and without noting the recipe. One of them is this guy. And the other one, man, I'm just not a dark person, but check this out. Oof. I love these so much. Very happy. Only 2. They will also go in the shop. Sugarloaf, a beautiful yarn for shawls. Soft, a beautiful hand. It's a light fingering that has about 560 yards for a 4-ounce skein. I hope you love everything I showed you that will pop in the shop, and I hope you love the podcast too. And I always enjoy recording and talking to you and talking about what I love so much. And so until we see each other again, I wish you happy knitting. Bye.